The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Commander Zex Talon strode confidently toward the central platform. His scaled skin glistened under the chamber's bright lights, and his ceremonial armor clicked with each step. Representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations watched from their designated areas, some whispering among themselves. Commander Zex Talon stopped at the center of the platform and raised his three-fingered hand in the formal Crixian salute. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, his translator device projected in the common galactic language. I come before you today not to ask permission, but to inform you of the Crixian Empire's next expansion target. We have chosen a small resource-rich world in Sector 3847, locally known as Earth. A wave of murmurs swept across the chamber. Several representatives rose from their seats, their expressions showing clear alarm. Ambassador Trill of the Volnari Confederation stepped forward. The elderly diplomat's skin shifted from its normal blue to a concerned purple as he approached the platform. Commander Zex Talon, Ambassador Trill said, his voice gentle but firm. With all due respect to the mighty Crixian Empire, I strongly advise against this course of action. Earth is not what it seems. Zex Talon let out a dismissive hiss. We have studied this world extensively, Ambassador. The humans have barely reached their own moon. They fight among themselves constantly. Their technology is primitive by our standards. The conquest will be swift and add valuable resources to our empire. The Zentari representative, a floating crystalline being, moved forward. The humans are listed in our records as unusually adaptive. They have been left undisturbed for good reason. Exaggerated rumors and outdated information, Commander Zex Talon replied with a flick of his tail. Our intelligence suggests they would fall within days of our arrival. Far away in Earth's orbit, NASA astronaut Lisa Moore floated inside the International Space Station's observation module. The Earth spun slowly below her, a beautiful blue marble against the blackness of space. She checked the readings on her tablet one more time, then pushed herself through the module toward the communication station. Her colleague, John Peters, looked up from his work as she approached. "What's wrong, Lisa? You look worried." Lisa showed him her tablet. "These energy readings don't make sense. I've been tracking them for the past hour. Something big just appeared near Mars." John pushed his glasses up and studied the data. "Could be a solar flare playing with our instruments." "I thought so too, at first," Lisa said. "But look at the pattern. It's too regular. And there's not just one signature. There are dozens, moving in formation." Back in the council chambers, an ancient reptilian representative known as Elder Saz rose slowly from his seat. The chamber grew quiet immediately. When one of the first spacefaring races chose to speak, all listened. "The Crixian Empire makes a grave mistake," Elder Saz said, his voice raspy with age. "Earth is classified as a death world. Its conditions have produced life forms of unusual resilience and creativity." Commander Zex Talon scoffed. "With all respect, Elder, those classifications are ancient history. My soldiers are the finest warriors in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The humans will submit or perish." Ambassador Trill shook his head sadly. "You do not understand. Humans don't think like us. They don't fight like normal species. They are," he paused, searching for the right word, "unpredictable. The invasion plans are set," Commander Zex Talon declared. "The first wave departs immediately. The Crixian Empire thanks the Council for its attention in this matter." As Zex Talon turned to leave, Ambassador Trill called after him. "May whatever gods you worship have mercy on your forces, Commander. You will need it." In the cold darkness of space between Mars and Earth, the void suddenly shimmered. One by one, massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their sleek hulls reflecting the distant sunlight. In the lead vessel, Crixian officers prepared for what they believed would be an easy conquest. They had no idea what awaited them. The Crixian fleet moved silently through space, their massive warships arranged in perfect formation. On the command bridge of the flagship, Fleet Commander Gorn watched the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, its swirling clouds hiding the civilization below. "Launch the first wave of scout ships," Commander Gorn ordered. "Standard invasion protocol. Assess their defenses and identify key targets." 20 smaller vessels detached from the main fleet, their engines glowing as they accelerated toward Earth. The invasion had begun. In Washington, D.C., Major Eric Young rushed through the underground corridors of the Pentagon. His phone had been buzzing nonstop since the alert came in. He pushed through the heavy doors of the Emergency Command Center, where dozens of military personnel stared at large screens showing incoming objects from space. "Status report," Eric demanded as he approached the central console. A young lieutenant looked up from her station. "Sir, we have multiple objects entering our solar system. They appeared suddenly near Mars and are moving toward Earth at incredible speeds. NASA confirms they're not natural phenomena." "How many?" "We've identified at least 20 smaller craft approaching Earth, with larger vessels holding position near Mars." Eric's face hardened. "Alert the President and activate the Space Defense Force. This is not a drill." Across the globe, military bases went on high alert. The recently formed Space Defense Force, created after several unexplained aerial phenomena incidents, prepared their experimental weapon systems. In the Oval Office, President Susan Carter listened grimly as her advisors explained the situation. The tall windows behind her desk showed a perfectly normal day in Washington, but the atmosphere in the room was tense. "Do we have any communication with them?" the President asked. "No, Madam President," replied the Secretary of Defense. "They're not responding to any of our signals." President Carter stood up. "Prepare my address to the United Nations and get me our best military advisors. If this is what we think it is, we need to be ready." In rural Iowa, farmer Kevin Williams stood in his cornfield, looking up at the evening sky. His 12-year-old daughter Olivia pointed excitedly at strange lights moving overhead. "Dad, what are those?" "They're moving weird." Kevin squinted at the lights. They didn't blink like airplanes, and they moved in patterns he had never seen before. Something about them made the hair on his neck stand up. "Let's go inside, honey," he said, putting a protective arm around his daughter's shoulders. "I think we should turn on the news." As they walked back to their farmhouse, Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that something big was happening. He had served in the army before becoming a farmer, and his instincts were rarely wrong. In the Galactic Council chambers, the massive screen showed the Crixian fleet approaching Earth. Ambassador Trill watched with growing concern as the scout ships entered Earth's atmosphere. "They actually went through with it," he said to no one in particular. "The fools." An aide rushed up to Ambassador Trill. "Sir, we're receiving reports that the humans have detected the fleet. Their primitive defense systems are activating." "Primitive?" Trill gave a sad laugh. "That's what everyone keeps saying. Watch what happens next." Back on Earth, the first scout ships breached the atmosphere. Their stealth technology should have made them invisible to Earth's detection systems, but somehow, human radar locked onto them immediately. In a military base in Nevada, Lieutenant Annie Foster monitored the incoming signals. "Targets confirmed." "Permission to engage, sir." Her commander nodded grimly. "Permission granted. Let's show these visitors what happens when you come uninvited." Surface-to-air missiles launched from hidden silos across the continent. In orbit, experimental satellite weapons powered up, their existence unknown even to most world governments. On the Crixian flagship, Commander Gorn received the first panicked transmissions from his scout ships. "What do you mean they've detected you? That's impossible with their technology." The response came through with static. "They're firing at us, Commander. Their weapons air." The transmission cut off abruptly. Commander Gorn stared at the screen in disbelief as the first wave of scout ships began to disappear from their tracking system. This was not how the invasion was supposed to begin. Commander Zex Talon paced the bridge of his command ship, his tail lashing in agitation. The large screen before him showed the status of his invasion fleet. Red warning lights flashed where scout ships had been destroyed. This was not going according to plan. How is this possible? He hissed at his science officer. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. The science officer worked frantically at his console. Commander, we're detecting energy signatures similar to Volnari defense systems, and some of their weapons appear to use Zentari targeting technology. Impossible. Zex Talon slammed his fist on a nearby panel. Those species would never share technology with a primitive world. They didn't share it, sir, the science officer said quietly. Our scans indicate the humans have reverse-engineered technology from crashed ships. They'd been studying alien technology for decades. In Chicago, Dr. Allison Rodriguez worked rapidly in her underground laboratory. Around her, a team of scientists monitored equipment that hummed with power. The laboratory had been built in secret after the Roswell incident, dedicated to studying and adapting alien technology. Power levels at 90%, called out one of the technicians. The pulse is ready to deploy. Allison checked the final calculations on her tablet. Target the cluster of ships over Lake Michigan. Activate in 3, 2, 1. She pressed her palm against the activation panel. The lights dimmed momentarily as enormous power surged through the system. Above the city, invisible to human eyes, a massive electromagnetic pulse expanded outward in a perfect sphere. 3 Crixian vessels caught in the pulse suddenly lost power, their systems overloaded by the unexpected attack. They fell from the sky, crashing into the empty waters of Lake Michigan. Across the world, similar scenes unfolded as humanity revealed defenses the Crixians never expected to face. In Japan, laser arrays mounted on skyscrapers targeted alien ships with surprising accuracy. In Brazil, a hidden facility launched drones with technology decades ahead of what was publicly known. At the Pentagon, Major Eric Young received updates from around the globe. Sir, the aliens are pulling back their smaller craft. It looks like they're regrouping. Eric studied the tactical display. They'll be back with heavier firepower. Tell all units to prepare for the second wave. And get me a secure line to our allies. We need to coordinate our response. In the Galactic Council chambers, the assembled representatives watched the battle unfold with growing amazement. Ambassador Trill stood before them, his skin now a deep purple of concern. I tried to warn them, he said to the council. Humans don't fight like normal species. They adapt. They improvise. They reverse-engineer any technology they can get their hands on. A reptilian delegate raised a scaled hand. But how did they get such technology in the first place? Ambassador Trill sighed. Various species have crashed on Earth over the centuries. The Volnari scout ship that went missing 50 Earth years ago. The Zentari research vessel lost during an ion storm. The humans salvaged what they could and learned from it. On the main screen, they watched as the Crixian fleet launched their second wave. Larger vessels armed with more powerful weapons. Will the humans survive this? Asked a crystalline being from the back of the chamber. Watch, said Ambassador Trill. Back on Earth, Commander Zex Talon had ordered his elite forces to land at key locations. He was determined to establish ground control and show these primitives the true might of the Crixian Empire. The first dropships landed in an open field outside Denver, Colorado. Heavily armed Crixian soldiers poured out, expecting little resistance. Instead, they found themselves facing a well-prepared human military force, using tactics and weapons the aliens had never encountered. Captain Sam Miller of the United States Army gave the order to his troops. Remember your training, people. Aim for the joints in their armor. Use the pulse rifles only when you have a clear shot. We have limited charges. The soldiers moved with practiced precision, using the landscape for cover. The Crixians, used to fighting enemies who stood and faced them directly, were unprepared for human guerrilla tactics. In orbit, Commander Zex Talon received the first panicked reports from his ground forces. His mandibles clicked in frustration and growing fear. Something was very wrong about this supposedly primitive planet. The rain fell heavily on the streets of Seattle as police officer Jack Nelson led a group of civilians through the back alleys. Above them, Crixian ships patrolled the skies, searchlights cutting through the darkness. Jack had been on duty when the first ships appeared over the city. Now, 3 hours later, he was organizing resistance. "Stay low and quiet," he whispered to the group behind him. The mix of citizens included former military personnel, hunters, and everyday people determined to fight back. "They don't understand our city layout. We can use that against them." A woman named Beth, who had served 2 tours in Afghanistan, nodded in agreement. "Their armor is strong in the front but weaker at the joints. If we ambush them in tight spaces, we can take them down." Jack was amazed at how quickly humans adapted to the invasion. No training manual covered alien attacks, yet people instinctively knew what to do. They shared information, formed groups, and used their knowledge of the environment to their advantage. Across the city, similar groups were setting traps in subway tunnels, creating improvised weapons from everyday items, and using the city itself as a weapon against the invaders. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the submarine U.S. Vigilant moved silently through the dark waters. Captain Michelle Bennett studied the sonar display showing a large alien structure that had landed in the ocean off the California coast. The Crixians had established an underwater command center, believing the ocean depths would provide safety. "Prepare torpedo tubes 1 and 2, Michelle ordered calmly. "Use the new sound masking technology. They won't hear us coming." Her executive officer looked concerned. "Captain, we've never used this technology in actual combat." "There's a first time for everything," Michelle replied with a determined smile. "And humans have been fighting underwater longer than these aliens have been in our solar system." The submarine glided closer to the alien structure, using currents and thermal layers to hide its approach. Tactics developed over a century of human naval warfare. In his command ship, Commander Zex Talon received increasingly disturbing reports from his forces around the planet. His military training had never prepared him for this type of resistance. "These humans," he growled to his second-in-command, "they fight like they've been at war their entire existence." "Perhaps they have, Commander," his officer replied soberly. "Our cultural research indicates they have fought thousands of wars among themselves throughout their history. They have never known a time of complete peace." Zex Talon's eyes widened slightly. "You mean they practice warfare on each other?" "Constantly." "Yes, Commander. And each war made them more efficient at the next one." On the surface, in a well-protected facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, scientist Paul Jackson worked frantically with a team of international researchers. Before him was a captured piece of Crixian technology, a communication device taken from a downed scout ship. "I think I've cracked their language algorithm," Paul said, his fingers flying across his keyboard. "It's similar to the patterns we found in the Roswell artifacts, but with a different base structure." A researcher from India leaned forward. "If we can understand their communications, we can predict their movements." "Better than that," Paul replied with excitement. "We might be able to send false orders to confuse their troops." In the Galactic Council chambers, the representatives watched in growing horror as the Crixian invasion faltered on multiple fronts. A senior military advisor from the Zentari species addressed the council. "The humans are displaying tactical thinking that should be impossible for their level of development," the advisor stated. "They are not fighting with just technology. They are fighting with their minds. And their minds have been shaped by constant conflict." Ambassador Trill nodded gravely. "That is what makes Earth a death world. Not just its physical conditions, but what those conditions created. Humans have been fighting everything since they first emerged. They fight the weather, predators, diseases, and most of all, each other." A younger representative asked, "But surely the Crixians' superior technology will prevail?" Ambassador Trill pointed to the latest battle footage. "Technology alone does not win wars. The Crixians are fighting an enemy that has been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. even if the humans didn't know it themselves. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with urgent voices as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session. The large central screen showed multiple views of Earth, where the Crixian invasion forces were now facing serious resistance across the planet. Elder Saz, the ancient reptilian diplomat, rose slowly from his seat. His scales had faded with age, but his voice still commanded attention when he spoke. "We must intervene," he announced. "The Crixian Empire has violated our most sacred protocol by attacking a death world without proper council approval." Ambassador Trill nodded in agreement. Earth was designated as a death world for good reason. Its extreme conditions have produced life forms with extraordinary adaptive capabilities. A newer council member, a gas-based entity from the Andromeda galaxy, pulsed with confusion. "I do not understand this term, death world. Why is this small blue planet so dangerous?" Elder Saz turned his ancient eyes toward the newcomer. "Death worlds are planets whose harsh conditions force life to develop unusual traits to survive. Earth has experienced 5 mass extinction events, yet life continued. Its gravity is higher than standard, its weather systems violent, its temperature ranges extreme. Every living thing on that planet evolved under constant pressure to adapt or die." On the screen, footage showed human fighters in desert regions using the harsh terrain to ambush Crixian ground forces. In another view, civilians in a flooded city moved through water with practiced ease while the invaders struggled. "And humans," continued Elder Saz, "are the apex predators of this death world. They can survive in nearly any environment on their planet. They can eat almost anything. They heal from injuries that would kill other species. And most importantly, they never, ever stop fighting when threatened." The council voted quickly. A delegation led by the Arconian diplomat Vexmore would travel to Earth immediately to negotiate with both humans and Crixians. Their ancient ship, capable of speeds far beyond Crixian technology, departed from the council station within the hour. Meanwhile, on his command ship, Commander Zex Talon faced a difficult decision. His invasion force had suffered unexpected losses. Nearly 40% of his fleet was damaged or destroyed. Ground forces reported constant harassment from human guerrilla fighters who seemed to melt away into the landscape after each attack. "We must send a message these primitives will understand," Zex Talon said, his voice cold with anger. "Prepare the forbidden weapons. We will target their largest population centers." His second-in-command looked up in shock. "Commander, the use of planet-killer weapons is forbidden by galactic law except in cases off." "I know the law," Zex Talon snapped, "but we cannot retreat in failure. The Empire's reputation would never recover. Better to make an example of this world." Back on Earth, in a secret underground facility beneath Washington, D.C., President Susan Carter met with her top military and scientific advisors. The room was filled with tension, but also a strange sense of unity. For the first time in history, all nations of Earth were fighting together against a common enemy. "What's the status of our major cities?" the president asked. General Howard reported, "New York, Tokyo, and Mumbai have suffered damage from orbital strikes, but our emergency protocols are working. Civilian casualties are much lower than we feared." Dr. Rodriguez added, "The alien technology we recovered is helping us develop better defenses. We've adapted their shield technology to protect our key installations." The president nodded. "And what about the strange energy signature approaching from beyond Mars?" The room fell silent. On the large screen, a new blip appeared, moving at incredible speed toward Earth. "It's not Crixian," said Dr. Rodriguez, studying the readings. "It's something else entirely. And it's moving much faster than anything we've seen before." In orbit around Earth, Commander Zex Talon was preparing to deploy his most destructive weapons when his sensors officer called out in alarm. "Commander, a ship is approaching at impossible speed. It's an Arconian vessel." Zex Talon felt his blood run cold. The Arconians were one of the elder races, ancient beyond measure, and rarely seen in this part of the galaxy. Their presence could mean only one thing. The Galactic Council was directly intervening. "Hold weapons deployment," he ordered quickly. Even he was not bold enough to defy an elder race. "Open a channel to the approaching ship." The face that appeared on his screen was unlike any species he had encountered before. Ancient, wise, and carrying an authority that made even Zex Talon hesitate. The Arconian diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere, its ancient hull glowing softly as it approached the United Nations building in New York. Despite the battle damage to surrounding structures, the UN headquarters stood intact, protected by newly deployed shield technology. Inside the building's main conference room, Dr. Laura Weber adjusted her glasses nervously. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, she had been called upon to help communicate with the new alien arrivals. Beside her, General Richard Martinez stood tall in his formal uniform, representing Earth's unified military command. "Are you ready for this?" the general asked quietly. Laura nodded. "As ready as anyone can be for humanity's first official diplomatic meeting with aliens." The doors opened, and the Arconian delegation entered. Their leader, Vex Moore, moved with fluid grace despite his ancient age. His skin shimmered with subtle patterns that seemed to shift with his emotions. Two other species accompanied him: Ambassador Trill of the Volneri, and a crystalline being introduced as Observer Xylos. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," Vex Moore said, his words translated through a small device at his throat. "We come on behalf of the Galactic Council to address the unauthorized invasion of your world." General Martinez stepped forward. "We appreciate your intervention, but we're handling the invasion ourselves. The Crixians are finding Earth harder to conquer than they expected." A hint of what might have been amusement crossed Vex Moore's alien features. "Indeed, that is partly why we are here." Laura took a seat at the table as the formal discussions began. She listened intently as Vex Moore explained Earth's classification as a death world, a planet whose harsh conditions produced unusually resilient life forms. "Your world has been left undisturbed by galactic civilization by design," Ambassador Trill added. "Most species would never attempt to colonize a death world. The Crixians' arrogance led them to ignore this classification." "So there are other alien species out there?" Laura asked. "How many?" "Thousands," replied Vex Moore. "The Galactic Council represents over 2,000 spacefaring civilizations across multiple galaxies." The implications were staggering. Humanity was not alone, had never been alone. And now, because of this invasion, they were being formally introduced to a wider galactic community. As the diplomats talked, another drama unfolded in orbit around Earth. Special Forces Commander Daniel Clark and his team of 6 soldiers floated silently toward the Crixian command ship. Their stealth suits, enhanced with recovered alien technology, hid them from the ship's sensors. "Remember the mission," Daniel said through the secure comlink. "We need to reach the Weapon Control Center and disable the planet killer before it can target New York." His team acknowledged with clicks on their comms. They had trained for space operations, but never against alien technology. Yet human adaptability was proving to be their greatest weapon. Within hours of capturing Crixian equipment, Earth's scientists had figured out how to bypass their security systems. The team reached the hull of the massive ship. Specialist Greg Winters applied a cutting tool that melted through the alien metal. The team slipped inside, sealing the breach behind them to prevent atmosphere loss. Daniel checked his wrist display, which showed a map created from data stolen from Crixian computers. "This way to the central weapons bay. Stay alert." They moved through the corridors, avoiding patrols when possible and silently eliminating alien guards when necessary. The Crixians, used to overwhelming their enemies with superior technology, had never developed the stealth tactics that humans had perfected through centuries of warfare against each other. Back at the United Nations, the diplomatic meeting continued. Observer Xylos, the crystalline being, projected images showing the current state of the battle around Earth. The Crixian forces are preparing to deploy weapons prohibited by galactic law. Xylos explained. We have demanded they stand down, but Commander Zex Talon refuses to acknowledge Council authority in this matter. General Martinez frowned. Then we continue fighting. We've already damaged or destroyed nearly half their fleet. Vexmore's eyes showed what might have been respect. Your species' ability to adapt to warfare is remarkable. But there is something you should know. A Crixian planet killer weapon is positioning to target this very city. Laura felt her heart race. Can your ship stop it? Our diplomatic vessel is not armed, Ambassador Trill said sadly. We can evacuate some of you, but... General Martinez's communication device beeped. He listened for a moment, then smiled. That won't be necessary. Our team has just boarded the Crixian command ship. The Crixian Empire's High Command refused to acknowledge the message from the Arconian vessel. Commander Zex Talon sat rigidly in his command chair, his scales darkening with anger. Earth is our rightful conquest, he told his officers. The Council has no authority to interfere in Imperial expansion. His second-in-command looked nervous. But, sir, the Arconians are an elder race. Their technology is far beyond ours. One diplomatic vessel cannot stop our fleet, Zex Talon replied. Continue with the attack. Prepare the planet killer weapon. Little did he know that humans had already found a way to fight back from space. In Earth orbit, NASA engineer Karen Wilson and Air Force pilot Frank Murphy worked frantically inside a damaged Crixian scout ship they had captured. The small vessel had crashed in the Nevada desert with minimal damage, and human scientists had quickly learned how to operate its systems. Navigation is online, Karen said, her fingers moving across the alien controls. Their computer systems are different, but the principles are similar to ours. Frank strapped himself into the pilot's seat. Who would have thought all those flight simulator games would help me fly an alien spaceship? The captured vessel lifted off from the secret base, its engines glowing as it rose into the atmosphere. Other ships like it were launching from different locations around the globe, each operated by human crews who had quickly adapted to alien technology. All units, report in, Frank called through the communication system. Eagle 2, ready, came the response from a former Navy pilot. Eagle 3, systems green, reported another crew. 6 captured Crixian vessels, now operated by humans, moved into formation. Their target, the Crixian fleet's support ships. On the ground, a global coalition of military forces launched a coordinated counterattack against Crixian strongholds. In Europe, tanks and infantry pushed forward against alien positions with support from hastily adapted energy weapons. In Asia, guerrilla fighters used their knowledge of dense urban environments to trap and isolate alien units. At the United Nations building, Vexmore and the other council representatives watched these developments with growing amazement. They've taken control of Crixian vessels, Ambassador Trill observed. In just days, they've learned to operate completely alien technology. General Martinez nodded with pride. Humans are good at taking things apart and figuring out how they work. We've been doing it throughout our history. On the main screen, they watched as the human-piloted alien vessels engaged the Crixian support ships. The Earth pilots used unorthodox tactics that confused the Crixian commanders, who were used to fighting enemies that followed standard galactic battle formations. Inside the Crixian command ship, Special Forces Commander Daniel Clark and his team reached the weapons control center. They had encountered resistance along the way, losing 2 team members to alien security forces, but the remaining 4 soldiers were determined to complete their mission. Plant the charges here and here, Daniel ordered, pointing to key systems in the room. Greg, get started on their computer. Specialist Greg Winters connected a small device to the alien computer terminal. The device, created by Earth scientists based on captured technology, began to feed commands into the Crixian system. I'm in, Greg said after a few tense minutes. These aliens need better cybersecurity. Our code is breaking through their firewall protocols. Meanwhile, Commander Zex Talon watched in disbelief as more parts of his invasion force were systematically defeated. Reports flooded in from across the planet. Human forces were using Crixian weapons against them, applying tactics the aliens had never encountered. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They were supposed to be primitive." His tactical officer looked up from his station. "Sir, their military thinking is unlike anything in our records. They don't follow any standard doctrine. Each human unit seems to adapt its tactics to the specific situation." On the council vessel, observer Xylos noted this remarkable attribute to the other galactic representatives who were watching the battle unfold. "The humans apply something they call creative thinking to warfare," Xylos explained. "Rather than follow established military doctrine, they continuously innovate." Vex Moore nodded thoughtfully. "Many aggressive species in our galaxy have attempted conquest and expansion, but few have faced a world where every living thing evolved to survive constant threats." Ambassador Trill added, "Other warlike species are beginning to recognize the strategic value of human military thinking. Several have already requested permission to send observers to Earth." In a secured facility beneath Silicon Valley, tech specialist Sofia Garcia led a team of the world's best hackers. Their mission was unlike anything they had trained for: to breach the command systems of an alien invasion fleet. "We've analyzed the code from the captured ships," Sofia explained to her team. "Their computer language is different, but the logic structure has similarities to our own. They clearly evolved computing along similar mathematical principles." On the screens before them, lines of alien code scrolled past. What would have been completely unintelligible days ago now began to make sense after intense study of captured Crixian technology. "I think I found their weakness," said Alan, a young programmer from India. "Their security is advanced but rigid. They don't expect their systems to be attacked from within." Sophia nodded. "Let's exploit that. Upload our virus package through the communication channels we've identified." Their fingers flew across keyboards as they launched the most important cyber attack in human history. The virus spread rapidly through the Crixian fleet's interconnected systems, exploiting a flaw in their communication protocols. One by one, critical systems throughout the invasion force began to fail. In orbit, Commander Zex Talon watched in horror as his ship's displays flickered and went dark. Emergency lighting activated as primary systems failed. "What's happening?" he demanded. His technology officer worked frantically at his station. "Some kind of attack in our core systems. It's spreading through the communication network." "Cut all connections to other ships," Zex Talon ordered, but it was too late. The virus had already spread throughout the fleet. Outside, human-piloted captured vessels took advantage of the confusion, targeting key systems on the disabled Crixian ships. Earth's ground-based weapons fired upward, striking with unexpected precision. The command ship shuddered as explosions rippled through its hull. Damage control alarms blared as Commander Zex Talon realized the terrible truth. He was losing control of his invasion force. On the bridge of the Arconian diplomatic vessel, Vex Moore and the Council representatives watched the battle with growing amazement. "The humans have compromised the entire Crixian command structure," Ambassador Trill observed. "They found a weakness and exploited it perfectly." Vex Moore nodded solemnly. "A species that can adapt this quickly to completely unknown technology is rare in our galaxy. The Council will need to reconsider Earth's status immediately." Within hours, the Crixian invasion collapsed. Damaged ships retreated or surrendered. Ground forces, cut off from command and control, were quickly surrounded by human military units. Commander Zex Talon himself was captured when Special Forces Commander Daniel Clark's team took control of the command ship's bridge. The alien commander was brought in restraints to the United Nations building, where Earth's leaders and the Galactic Council representatives awaited. President Susan Carter stood tall as the defeated alien commander was led into the chamber. "Commander Zex Talon, you came to our world expecting easy conquest. Instead, you found that humans don't surrender easily." The Crixian commander's scales had faded to a pale gray of defeat. "How?" How did primitives defeat the Imperial fleet? We're not primitive, the president replied simply. We're survivors. Vex Moore stepped forward, his ancient eyes focused on the Crixian. The Council has ruled. The Crixian Empire will pay reparations to Earth for this illegal invasion. All Crixian forces will immediately withdraw from this solar system. Then the ancient Arconian turned to President Carter. As for Earth, the Council extends an offer of emergency membership with unprecedented terms. Your world's unique capabilities have earned you a place among the galactic community. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. 1 week later, the International Space Station was expanded to include a new diplomatic module. Astronaut Lisa Moore, who had first detected the alien fleet's approach, was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the stars. She stood in the new module, looking out at Earth below and the vastness of space beyond. In the Galactic Council prison, Commander Zex Talon watched a news feed in disbelief. It showed human military advisors beginning to train other species' defense forces in adaptable tactics. Some council races were already negotiating for human assistance with their own security challenges. Ambassador Trill visited the prison, regarding the fallen commander with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. I warned you about Earth. Now the universe will never be the same. The humans know we exist, and they have much to teach us all.